Welcome to the AI Business News Desk. I'm Terry Sweeney, contributing editor to AI Business, and joining me now is Howard Stevens, a vice president with Omnicom Group, and also the founder and CEO of Belum. Howard, thanks so much for joining us on the news desk today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Our topic is creating measurable value with AI. Before we dive in there, just give us some thoughts about your definition of what creating value in this instance means, measurable value.
Yeah, I think measurable value means different things to different companies based on your industry, as well as where they're at in the journey. At its most basic level, personal productivity is valuable. It's the hardest to measure, but there are still measurable value that can be derived from just you using AI in your day. How does it make you more productive? How does it liberate you to focus on more strategic tasks rather than kind of that tactical, more mundane things? And then all the way up to revenue generation and creating new products and truly innovating. So it really depends on where you're at in the journey.
It strikes me that innovation is also a difficult thing to measure,
Yeah.
like the needle with. There is rather intangible.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the hardest thing for companies or for anyone to have a conversation with their CFO at a company who's saying like that to them value generally means impact on the bottom line.
Right, we're
And I
going to have to
think
pay
that
for
is the
this.
biggest disconnect. That's the hardest thing is personal productivity. There's not a direct correlation to the bottom line. Innovation, maybe, but there's so many factors that go into that it's really hard to pinpoint. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges with the investment in AI. It's not like traditional software where you see an immediate return. Oh, in 12 months we have ROI. It's it's a more complex animal that's harder to measure. And companies need to find new ways of measuring it at different stages of the journey.
Thanks. That's helpful just to define our terms up front. With that in mind, how should companies be using AI to both drive results and to create measurable value?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of different ways. I mean, I think first off, walking around the conference, and as an industry, we are scratching the surface of what AI is capable of. So companies should really be thinking about how can we leverage it today with an eye towards that innovation. But when it comes to doing it today, it is. I feel like I've derailed a little bit on this answer. So let me get back to your question. How should companies be thinking about using AI? Um, they should be using AI to solve immediate pain points, right? Rather than thinking about that innovation down the road, that will come. But if you're not immediately focused on the pain points you have, and you're just thinking about AI and what can I use it for? What innovation can I create? You're going to miss the opportunity to actually deliver better value for your employees and your customers.
I can imagine that C-level executives are under some pressure to come up with some almost like Cirque du Soleil sort of level
Uh huh.
of magic with AI, like something really impressive, something that's going to wow everybody, attract new sources of revenue, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think your point is super practical. Like let's solve some immediate pain points with this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I see. That's one of the biggest mistakes I think companies make is trying to jump or accelerate right into innovation and how can we use this to wow our customers. Um, to me, it's a three-step approach, and each step might take months or it might take years, depending upon your organizational culture. Um, but step one, as I mentioned, is kind of that personal productivity. And not only are you seeing gains and some value there, but you're educating or your employees are getting a better sense of what AI is capable of. And unless they have that fundamental understanding, they're not going to be able to improve upon operational processes. And that's where you'll start to see real value being created. And if they don't know how to solve for operational processes within inside their own company, it's going to be real hard for them to think how can that be leveraged to improve the customer experience and drive value for their customers.
It's a crude example, but I think of just AI's ability to like create a transcript of a meeting as a productivity gain.
Yeah.
It's basic, but it solves a pain point of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the amount of, that's one of those things that I would classify as very hard to measure the value, but the productivity gains that come from not having to take notes in a meeting, to be able to pay more attention and engage more directly, to be able to have perfect recall weeks or months down the road, there's tremendous value there.
Makes sense. Related to this, talk a little bit about some of the biggest challenges that you've seen for companies to create this value with AI.
Yeah, I think there's, I mean, two come to mind as fairly consistent. One is companies focused on how do we use AI to cut costs rather than growth and innovation.
Right.
And that again goes back to if you're focused on only using AI to cut costs, you're going to be behind your competitors in maybe a matter of months, maybe a matter of years. But real innovation requires how do you use it in a way that moves the whole industry forward, and cost cutting isn't going to get you there. The second one is companies trying to build too much in-house. I think when it comes to innovation and revenue generation and servicing your clients, that is, that's your secret sauce, and that you probably want to build in-house. Those other steps, that personal productivity, that operational efficiency, there's a myriad of tools out there that can be leveraged where you are not over-indexing on either trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to save costs, but getting the value and learning and getting all of your employees and instituting a culture that's comfortable with AI without over-investing. Because if you're investing on that, you're missing the larger opportunity to better service your clients.
I'm sure you've heard this aphorism of there's two kinds of failures. There's failure of imagination, but there's also basic failure, just encouraged to do the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
With the companies that you work with, are you seeing the tilt to imagination, to courage? Like, where do they fail to step up typically?
Yeah, I think it's very mixed based on the companies I've talked to. The one that I feel like is incumbent upon me to share is fear of AI still. I mean, I feel like we're 3 years into this conversation, and obviously AI has been around a lot longer
Sure.
than that, but there are still so many people who are afraid of leveraging AI, afraid of letting go. And so I guess I would characterize that as fear of lack of imagination. And so I think in general, that's where I'm seeing the biggest hurdles.
That makes total sense. We're hearing a lot of talk about this recent MIT study that claimed that AI can replace 12% of workers. Obviously, this sort of thing would create measurable value. Do you agree with that sort of reductive kind of analysis?
Yeah. The headline is absolutely misleading because it doesn't replace 12% of workers. What it's saying is it can alleviate or replace 12% of the tasks that workers do. So if you want to boil a worker down to a collection of tasks that they can do, you still can't replace that worker. Where I think the study and the media do the industry and society as a whole a disservice is that's exacerbating that fear of AI for people. And we want, I think in general, we want everyone to get comfortable with AI because it is an inevitability, just as the internet when it first came out. I mean, there is no putting the genie back in the bottle. But to me, the bigger opportunity is that we can shape the narrative. And if we shape the narrative around using AI to grow and enable people to do more and enable people to do more strategic work rather than that kind of tactical, mundane work, maybe people will embrace it quicker and will actually drive to better outcomes. But if the media focuses on conversations about replacing workers, that's fueling that fire, creating that fear,
sure.
And that's the wrong thing that companies should be focused on anyway.
Well, I think we can agree that automating these low-level repetitive tasks is the low-hanging fruit, and we all look forward to the day when we can move beyond that
Absolutely.
around
Yeah.
AI. So,
Yeah.
Howard, thanks so much for coming by News Desk today. Really great insights here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Terry. Yeah, it was great being here. Thanks.
We've been talking with Howard Stevens of Omnicom Group and Belum. This has been Terry Sweeney for the AI Business News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.